you can throttle it back by the little... Today we're at Raptor Kayaks Canada, and we're going to go over how to install the bait tank. We've had a request on doing a video on it, so my name's Sheldon Crawford. I'm the owner of Raptor Kayaks Canada, and we're going to go over here, pick up a bait tank. And basically what you'll find in a complete bait tank kit will be the rod holders, you'll find the Atwood pump kit, a wiring harness, and of course the timer switch. Okay, so we moved outside here, and this is actually the wife's kayak. It's a little bit dirty because we just brought it up out of the river yesterday. And I'm going to install the bait tank on it and explain as I go how it's done. Okay, so I've got everything kind of set up here. So the bait tank would sit in like this. The Raptor kayak is probably one of the only kayaks that can, boast to have a live well. At least it's the first that I know of. I don't know of any others that have it. And once we're done, I'll show you how it all mounts in. But first we got to install our rod holders. And it's very simple with them. There is a screw inside there, and it would screw onto there. And what I tend to do is start the screw sticking out a little wee bit, and then line it up with the screw boss, and then screw it in, of course. Now we have all four in place. And it's interesting to note that when it comes time to lash this thing down, you would generally wrap your bungee cord around the side like that, and once around like that, pull it down to that point there. That leaves the top of the tank easily to open. I've seen some guys not really thinking about it, and they just put their lashes right across, and well, of course that doesn't work very good to open your tank up. What's interesting to note is in the bottom of the Raptor, this is an already formed well, and we're going to put an Atwood pump in there, and it actually locks in place. The pump will draw water from underneath the kayak, and there's a tube comes up through this channel into the back of the bait tank, and it will pump the water through the bait tank, and on the back of the bait tank there will be a outlet to dump the water out over the back end of the tank, thus keeping fresh water constantly going in to keep either your bait or your catch alive. So here we have that wood kit. Basically it contains everything we're going to need. There's the overflow. This is the actual Atwood pump, and of course a couple fittings to go on and the line. Now, but here, this is the screen that would be on the bottom side of the kayak once the pump is all installed. And we don't need this locking ring here on. And from the sounds of a thunder banger out there, we got some rain coming or something. Beautiful blue skies there. And over there, it's not so pretty looking. Anyway, so the Atwood pump will actually literally mount like that into the bottom of the hole. But before we do that, we've got to put our other fitting on, which would be this part here. And then we've got to put the hose onto that fitting and having it sticking above. So this is the Atwood pump all assembled now with the hose and that on it. And it would stick down through this hole. And then this large nut, we would actually, sorry for how dirty it is in the bottom, it would actually screw in to there like that and lock the pump in place. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is showing the Atwood pump locked in place. The wires for it, you can, depending on where you put your battery in that to power it, you can, kind of run them to the front, or you can run them back through this channel here and come up alongside your hose. And we'll show you how the hose connects in just a second. I'm going to go underneath and show you the connection on the bottom, what it looks like. And there you are. The suction for the Atwood pump is on the bottom of the kayak, so it's sucking fresh water up from underneath the kayak, and it will be pumping it through the bait tank. Okay, so the pump kit is going to come with this little gizmo here, which is actually kind of the inlet into the tank here. So it actually will be drilling a hole right in here, and this will mount in here, and the hose will connect onto this part. And then this is adjustable to allow the speed of water flow and that going into the tank and, you know, bubbling and that sort of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to select a hole saw for this and untake that part off there. So that'll be about the size that we need here, and that is 1 1/8. And from there, okay, so I've made a mark to where I'm going to drill, and I've got my drill all set up with the hole saw. Now I've made a nasty little hole in there. We're going to clean that up with an X-Acto knife, take the trimmings off, and put our flow piece in. Okay, so we got a nice hole in there. I've cleaned up the hole, and just a bit of forewarning, it's probably a good idea once you've cleaned up the hole in that, take the tank and wipe it out, because there'll be some plastic filings in that, and you don't want to be dumping that into the lake or river waters and that. So this part here will actually insert into there, and then there's the lock nut, and we would be putting that on the inside to lock that in place. Okay, we've got that locked in place. There's our hose. It's plenty long enough, and that what we're gonna do is I'm gonna have the wires running alongside it. I'm gonna set the tank in place, mark where I've got to cut this off, and then we're going to install that hose on it as well. As you can see down there, way down where the pump is and the line coming up, so we're gonna mark it probably right about there and cut this tube off and insert it into the fitting here. I've cut the tube off to the length I want, and I'm not sure, we might be getting rained on soon, so I might have to take this indoors, because that beautiful blue sky ahead is rapidly changing to a dark color, and there's those thunder sounds in the background. But anyways, so this is it fastened down here now. I'll lash the straps on so you can have a better idea of how that is again. So come over it, around, over it, around, lock it down, see? And we'll do the same thing over here, over it, around, and pull it and lock it down. Now the bait tank is very, very stable there. Leaves the lid fully accessible. And deep down under here is where the water suction happens, and excuse the dirtiness of the body of the kayak, but that's just the body of water that we're on right now. Yeah, well, we did have to move this indoors. It's a pouring rain, and yet over there we got blue skies still with some big black ones coming. Okay, we've moved inside to the shop once again, and in the last part of the video I missed showing you one part. We have to put an outlet for the tank, which should be a little lower than what the inlet is. And it's going to go on here, so that as the tank is being filled with water, it's going to dump the water into the back of the kayak, and the water will just fall and run down and out through the bilge pump hole type of thing. Okay, so I've drilled the other hole into for the outlet line of it, and just for information's sake, on this particular fitting, it's a 1-inch hole that you'll be drilling. Okay, as you may notice, that's a fairly big hole, and some of your minnows, depending on the size, if you're using it as a bait tank, might get this idea they want to make an escape and try swimming out through that little hole or plugging it up. So what I do is I take a piece of screen mesh and just kind of jam it into the hole. It lets the water flow out, but it stops any of the escape artists from trying to get out. And I don't tighten it on, I just shove it in the hole, because that way if there's any gun starts plugging it up, I can pull it out and rinse it out. And that kind of saves any escapees or, minnows kind of plugging up the hole on you and the tank overflowing itself. Okay, so here it is with a piece of nylon screen shoved into it. Still allows the water to flow, but it's easy for you just to pull it out if there's guns plugging it up, and rinse it off and stick it back in. Here you can see the drain outlet mounted now. So it's facing out over the back of it, so just discharge the water to the back, and the water would flow out through the scupper hole, Or you could turn it to the side and just put a small piece of hose and it would spit the water out over the edge of the kayak if you preferred. Okay, I've got the bait tank installed and we're going to, I've routed my cord up around the seat and I've got electronics hooked up on my kayak right here. So I'm going to plug that in. As you see, it's filling quite nicely here. And you can throttle it back by the little thing here to slow it down filling so that it will just overflow out the overflow hole. Now the one thing I have noticed in the past is that depending on how tight and old your hose is, you might get a little squirting out around the edge of the hoses because that'll put a clamp on it. And as you can see, the excess water will come out the back here out of the overflow. So this is literally, as best as I know, the only kayak that has a live well or bait tank, live well bait tank on it. You can keep your bait in it or you can put your fish that you catch. It'll hold, 4 reasonable nice size keeper of peckerel or some smallies in there, no problem at all. And with the unit pumping fresh water in constantly, and you can adjust the flow by the little knob here, increase it. And the overflow gets rid of the excess of the water. And it just dumps it out over the back of the kayak.